Hey, it's Rob Hefner for the Talk of the Town. This is the Town of Pinetop-Lakeside official podcast, giving you, the people that live here, information about what's going on. And we're going to continue on a path of conversations we've been having with different people about the referendum that is going to be up for election here. And by mid-February, most people will have everything in their hands. So we're going to give you this information early and allow you to ask questions back if you have questions. And the more information, the better. I've got with me Town Manager Keith Johnson. How are you, sir?
I am doing very good. Thank you.
So we're going to talk today. You've got, you'd received, or there was a letter that went out with the petitions. That was a rationale for the Pinetop-Lakeside Major Plan Amendment referendum. It was a letter that was included, I think, with most people that signed.
Yes, okay. I believe it was probably handed out to everyone that was given the opportunity to sign the referendum petition.
Okay, and we talked about, the fact that some of the comments, and this has been mentioned before, most notably by Councilman Tabor Heisler, and he's called it out. You can listen to those episodes specifically about what he's saying about it, that he didn't feel like it was based completely in fact, and a lot of it was talked around. But here in paper, we have the actual document that they'd handed out, and you've gone into it and made some notes about things that were, off center, so not based in truth. So why don't you take us through it?
Yeah, and I guess one of the terms I would use were alluded to, and that they alluded to certain things. And so, if for those that have copies of the rationale statement that was provided to the signers of the petition, they can always reference their copy, or we can always share that copy with them if they want to compare what I'm going to say and believe about this statement. So one of the things that was in here is statements, use of wording such as "it is believed" and "we believe." Mm-hmm. Right out of the box, whenever I see things like that, they're admitting that they didn't really check to see if their statement is accurate or not.
Yeah, they're not tying it to an actual footnote that says we're referencing this document. They're saying it is believed. So that could be I guess, or I assume.
Yeah, and we know what that means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So in the second paragraph, they say that it is believed that the council's action was done with limited citizen education and involvement and usurps the voters' right to approve the general plan and its associated land use map. So right out of the box, they're saying it is believed. Now, they had this group, the Political Action Committee had members, at least a couple, attending nearly all of our public meetings, which I will say that, number one, when they say that there was limited citizen and education and involvement, we had a total of 9 open and public meetings. They were advertised. And so it was open to the public to come to these meetings to discuss changes to and updating the future land use map. So the voters' right is not being usurped because the general plan as a whole, it has to be taken to the voters to approve, which they did in 2015. If you make a change to something such as the land use map and it involves 50 acres or more, then that is what was approved as a process by the voters of Pinetop-Lakeside.
Yeah. And we have an episode and we actually talk about exactly why that's required, what it does, and all of those kind of things. So people can listen to that episode to understand the general use map.
You bet. And so the long and short of that is real short. 50 acres means anything above 50 is a major plan amendment. Anything under 50 is a minor. And so that's why, unique to the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, they said we define this from state statute, and our definition is 50 acres. State statute doesn't say that, but the voters approved that in their general plan. So we had great meetings. There was on the last day when we had the work session and the final meeting with the council, there were probably about 20 people that came and voiced their opinion. The hard thing is this is information. It's best always to attend all the meetings,
right?
So that you understand what the process is you're discussing. And so it was obvious that there were several or most, if not all, of the public didn't fully grasp what the purpose of the future land use map was.
Right.
So then in the fourth paragraph, they talk about, towards the end, it says such development could be easily ushered in, potentially adding thousands of dwelling units to our town and increasing Pinetop-Lakeside's population dramatically. The purpose of the wording in this particular paragraph is to incite the public into thinking that, and these words were used in the public meeting, you're ringing the dinner bell and you're inviting developers to come in and begin acquiring the Forest Service's property. Well, there is nothing easy in acquiring Forest Service property.
Right.
That could take 10 to 20 years, millions of dollars on the part of the potential developer, and then they're going to have to go through a process of rezoning, and the Pinetop-Lakeside has a reputation of being anti-development, which is fine. But no one is going to come in and try to easily usher in, because there is nothing easy in the process.
No.
Even zoning by itself is a very arduous process and is very open to the public and to comments, and it opens it up to referendums. So there's nothing easy, and so there's not. And when you also consider the fact that last year, 2022, only 50 new building permits were issued in the town of Pinetop-Lakeside.
Right.
We have a lot of other developable property, available lots, larger sections that could be turned into subdivisions or apartment complexes, but we only had 50.
And we've got
it was there.
Yeah, we've got an episode coming up that we're going to do that we've not done yet that's going to talk about even if the land is approved for the use already, like it's a parcel of land and is approved to do something on, before they can start to build, there's a whole lot of things that have to happen and work that has to be done and plans that have to be approved and things that don't go in front of the planning and zoning and do not go in front of town council, but they actually have to come through staff and be approved because their processes are in place. So we're going to talk about this. Most people just think, you just start building, and that doesn't happen at all. It's not allowed.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, continue on.
We have very set, processes, and so that there's order in the development process. In the fifth paragraph, they talk about this is where they're specifically targeting the Camp Tatahay land exchange property.
Right.
Now, they say over 300 of the 1,321 acres were previously designated low-density land use, which is incorrect.
No, yeah.
That property was on the future land use map of 2015 was shown as forest.
Right.
So there is no density assigned to it. So that's an inaccurate statement. Now, prior to, in 2001, the town's general plan and future land use map did have that particular property shown as planned development. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, 2015, they changed it. But anyways, my main point here is that the 300 acres, and they're referencing the whole property, nearly the whole property, minus the Camp Tatahay property itself.
Right.
If you took that out, you took out Camp Grace, and then there's another 30 acres that was sold to another individual, another 30 plus acres sold to somebody else. So some of those are already being developed into home sites and everything else. Right. So they're kind of trying to throw mud in the water.
Yeah.
Trying to
and planned development, like we talk in an episode upcoming, planned development is not a zoning. It's just a plan. You're going to develop the area. It still has to get zoned and go through the process to get zoned. So there's still more public meetings that occur. So that's all available.
And to that point, the Camp Tatahay land exchange property hasn't ever been zoned.
No.
There is no zoning approved by the town of Pinetop-Lakeside.
It is now
except
zoned.
for some is commercial.
Yes.
But what it is it has an underlying zoning designation through the state of Arizona.
Right.
So that any property that isn't zoned falls under a agricultural, and for Pinetop-Lakeside, that's low density.
Right.
So it needed to be shown as, here's the plan, here's a suggested future land use designation for that. And that's all that was. Now, in that same paragraph, one of the things that's been frustrating through the whole process of dealing with this particular land exchange is there are many references from the public about the record of decision that was issued by the Forest Service.
United States, yeah.
And if you
USDA.
read the record of decision, it's only 14 pages. They make this statement in this paragraph, which is incorrect. They make this statement. It says, they wrote in this rationale, the U.S. Forest Service wording distinctly stipulates that. That is not true.
Right.
Right there, they did not distinctly stipulates means this is part of the agreement. But then you read the next sentence that they quote
out of the document, yeah.
Mm-hmm. If rezoned, development would likely be similar to the surrounding low-density residential development.
You said would likely.
Yeah, so distinctly stipulated and would likely do not go together.
No.
And so, again, they're putting words into the mouth of the Forest Service. If you read the record of decision, the Forest Service was given the opportunity to add deed restrictions to this land exchange. And they chose not to, for one reason, being that it would have lowered the value of the property.
Yes.
And they would not have been able to get as many thousands of acres as they did.
How about that?
Which it benefited them. And then they were basically saying the Town of Pinetop-Lakeside has zoning ordinances, and they will follow their ordinances. Now, they do put in there the surrounding low-density residential development. And that if you look at the properties surrounding the entire Camp Tatahe land exchange, only 8 or 9 are 1 acre or more.
Right.
Most of them are commercial, low, high density. There's a trailer park and such things, and then a housing subdivision.
Right.
I think it's R14. So the bulk of the property surrounding this particular property, they are not low density. So it's a fallacy in their statement.
It's the reason that the U.S. Forest Service wanted to trade and get out of the land is because they knew it was in a developing area. It wasn't going to remain as forest. It was an island unto its own, and it was completely surrounded by development, all the way from coming in from Sholo and Wagon Wheel and coming in from the other side. So they knew it was going to be a developed area.
Yes, exactly. And a big part of that is it's harder for the Forest Service to maintain a property that is not contiguous to the national forest.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why they were willing to let it go. And let's see. And lastly, I don't even know why they threw this paragraph in when they're referencing the donation of property from the Tokoff family to the town, which is, how do I say this? It's odd that they would throw this in there because the writer of the rationale statement was a part of the process of approaching that owner and proposing a recreational venue of alpine slide, zip lines, an inferno coaster, just different recreational opportunities, a tubing hill. We've kind of thought of a synthetic ice material to have a year-round tubing hill. That's been the proposal. There is no way on God's green earth we could ever sell that property or do anything else with it. They've stipulated it by deed restriction and in an agreement that we signed. So I'm just flabbergasted that they even put that in there because it makes absolutely no sense. But again, they're trying to make murky water, make it hard to see, and they're trying to cast doubt on the town and what our intentions are.
Yes.
And so I take umbrage with that statement that they put in there.
So, and I just wanted this one comment: to open the door to the potential of such profound growth in our small community is not smart on many levels.
Right.
I just don't understand, or maybe I don't get the fact that they think that we're done growing. Do they think everything's done being built? We hear consistently people asking for more services. They ask for better roadways. They ask for everything. And we can't stop people from moving here. So I don't understand that statement as being a reason that you don't plan development.
Exactly. And we are required, and I know you've either covered this in other podcasts or will cover more so, we're required by state statute to plan within our town limits.
Right.
Development will happen whether it's today or if it's 50 years from now. We have to have it planned so that, and they call it smart growth, and that's the state statute. And so it's important for us to be able to look for, and that future land land use map could change. And that's okay, because 20 years from now, they'll look at it when they're doing another approval of the land general plan, and they'll go, you know what, we're looking at it going in this direction.
Right.
And so they'll make changes. So it's kind of like an artist's palette, and it's going to become whatever through time.
Yeah.
One of the last things that they put in here was that, one thing that I would say is that anytime I've written a letter to the editor or made a statement or put it out there to the public, I've always signed my name to it.
Yeah.
I own it.
Yep.
And if I'm wrong, I'll stand up and admit that. But in this rationale statement, it doesn't reference the political action committee.
There's no committee.
It doesn't say who wrote it. It's anonymous. And so there's no ownership here. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't come back on them. So my hope and my prayer is that the voters of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside will take the time to become educated and understand that this future land use map and the amendments that we made they're not being portrayed correctly.
Right.
And it comes from a position of not understanding the process. And so whenever somebody doesn't understand the process, it's easy to pass judgment incorrectly.
Yep.
So it's always best, find out what the truth is before you make statements.
And even this document, I've seen, especially a gentleman did it in an open meeting, referenced this document and said, well, I think it's factual. What do you think? And it was one of those, like, it's either it's factual and it is factual, or it isn't.
Right.
You can't, it always seems to be playing around the edges. Well, we think we need to deal with what's actually happening and what's going forth. And that's the best way to do things.
You bet.
Awesome. Anything else?
That's all I've got. Thank you
for
the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Once again, that's Keith Johnson, the town manager for the town of Pinetop-Lakeside. I'm Rob Hefner. If you have any questions, as always, simply post them up or shoot us an email or even stop in. Town of Pinetop-Lakeside. Enjoy yourself.